We have a warrant to search this property. Step aside.
Okay, then show me the warrant.
We don't have to show you anything. We're executing a lawful search.
Actually, under the Fourth Amendment, you're required to present the warrant before entry.
Lady, you're interfering with a police investigation. That's a crime.
And conducting a warrantless search is a constitutional violation. That's a law.
She had a 100% conviction rate on those cases. Officers who lied on warrant applications went to federal prison when Jasmine Carter was prosecuting. And on that Saturday morning, 3 officers from the Philadelphia Police Department's narcotics unit were about to learn why. Jasmine lived in a converted warehouse in a transitioning neighborhood. The area had been industrial 20 years ago, but now it was filling up with artists, young professionals, and small businesses. Jasmine had bought the place 3 years earlier because she liked the space and the location was convenient to the federal courthouse. The building had 2 units. Jasmine lived in the upstairs loft. The downstairs unit was rented by a graphic designer named James Torres. James was 31, originally from Puerto Rico, quiet, kept to himself, paid his rent on time, and minded his own business. Jasmine didn't know him well. They exchanged pleasantries when they ran into each other. He had helped her carry groceries up the stairs once. She had signed for a package for him. Normal neighbor stuff. What Jasmine definitely didn't know was that James had a brother who was involved in drug dealing. Not James himself. James was completely clean. But his brother Carlos had gotten into some trouble, and Philadelphia PD's narcotics unit had been investigating Carlos for months. The officers had been surveilling Carlos, tracking his movements, trying to build a case. During that surveillance, they had seen Carlos visit the building where James lived. They had seen him go inside and come out 20 minutes later carrying a gym bag. That was enough, in their minds, to assume that drugs were being stored in that building. They didn't know which unit. They didn't have any actual evidence of drugs. They just had an assumption based on one visit by a suspected dealer. So they did what they had done dozens of times before. They wrote up a warrant application filled with exaggerations and assumptions presented as facts. They claimed they had reliable confidential informant information, which they didn't. They claimed they had observed multiple suspicious visits when they had only seen one. They claimed they had corroborating evidence of drug dealing at that address, which didn't exist. They submitted the application to a magistrate judge on a Friday afternoon, when judges were rushing through paperwork to get home for the weekend. The judge, not reading carefully, signed the warrant. The warrant was for the entire building, both units, even though the officers only suspected activity in one unit and didn't even know which one. That Saturday morning, officers Derek Mullins, Chris Santos, and Rebecca Walsh showed up to execute the warrant. Derek was the lead officer, 42 years old, 15 years on the force. Chris and Rebecca were younger, less experienced, but they followed Derek's lead. Derek had been investigated twice before for questionable search tactics. Both times, internal affairs had cleared him, not because he was innocent, but because the cases were closed before anyone looked too closely. They knocked on the main door at 7:15 a.m. Jasmine was awake. She had been out for a run, had showered, and was making coffee when she heard the pounding. She went to the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair still wet, her brown skin visible through the door's window. Through the door, she could see 3 people in tactical gear with police printed on their vests. She opened the door with the chain still on. Derek Mullins saw a young black woman in casual clothes and made his first assumption of many he would regret that morning. That's when Derek said they had a warrant and told her to step aside. Jasmine's response was immediate and precise. She demanded to see the warrant. Not requested, demanded. Derek tried the authority play, telling her they didn't have to show her anything. It was a lie, and Jasmine knew it instantly. She cited the Fourth Amendment, the requirement to present the warrant before entry. This wasn't law school theory. This was settled constitutional law. Any officer who had been through basic training should have known this. Derek escalated. He accused her of interfering, calling it a crime.